Schwab Advisor Services is proud to support the RIA Edge podcast and equally proud to support independent financial advisors like you. In a challenging year, how did 68% of firms surveyed in Schwab's RIA benchmarking study meet or exceed their new client goals? By following key success factors such as leveraging new technology, adapting strategies to win new business, and stay connected with their clients, while also attracting and developing the right talent. The Schwab RIA benchmarking study is just one of many ways they provide you with the insights and resources needed to succeed and grow. Get the full picture at advisorservices.schwab.com. Hello and welcome to RIA Edge. My name is Mark Bruno, the Managing Director of the Wealth Management Group at Informa Connect. Very excited to have our special guest here this afternoon, Rob Mooney, the Managing Partner and CEO at Snowden Lane Partners. Rob, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it very much.
Nice to be here.
You have a very interesting business model. You've been very active since you started the firm, and you have a really great perspective, especially given your own personal background and the backgrounds of many of the individuals who are part of the Snowden Lane management team. Before we get into some of the things that have driven your growth and success since you founded the firm, it'd be great, Rob, if you wouldn't mind, just to give a brief background on the history of Snowden Lane, a little bit of background on the formation as well. And just an update on where you are today in terms of number of advisors and also assets under management. Please.
Sure. Well, as I said, it's great to be here. And I spent 22 years at Merrill Lynch before Snowden Lane, mainly on the legal, regulatory, and risk side of the business. And actually spent 12 years outside the United States with the firm as well. But you may recall, or you may not if you're younger, that in the early 2000s, Elliot Spitzer kind of kicked off a series of uncovering of scandals in the wirehouse world. The initial ones related to research and investment banking, and it went into mutual funds and late trading and market timing and revenue sharing. I was in my senior most role at Merrill Lynch, I was general counsel for global wealth management for James Gorman, and he was running the business at that time. And I was part of the team that had to constantly defend the firm. And quite simply, I guess I got tired of playing defense. And I also became very disillusioned with the large firm model. And the common theme that I was dealing with on a daily basis that seemed to emerge was really just conflicts of interest with clients. And somewhat ironically, it seemed that every time there was a scandal, somehow there would be a pile of new rules and bureaucracy for financial advisors, when financial advisors typically had nothing to do with the origin of the problem. And so, the collapse of Merrill came, which was, I think, sadly caused by a very few people and an abandonment of the principles that had made us a great firm. And the Bank of America merger came, and I left shortly thereafter. I really just was not in a frame of mind where I could stay with a large firm, given my feelings about the business model. And so in 2011, with a couple of others, we decided to start Snowden Lane Partners and really, try to present a better way. And that is one of our taglines, there is a better way. For financial advisors. And, we based the firm and its foundation really on sort of three pillars. The first one was to be values driven, and ours, and we write them down because I was always told if you believe in that stuff, you write it down, put it on your website. Our values are loyalty, partnership, uncompromising standards, and social responsibility. So we want to be a high-tech, cutting-edge boutique platform with foundational principles, and we do try to walk the talk. The second pillar was really to focus on the client. A lot of people do that, but we wanted to focus on what is really ultimately right for the client, and by avoiding conflicts. And we do not take the view that we're conflict-free. You hear that sometimes in the RIA space, and I think everyone has conflicts of one kind or another, but we really do try to limit them. And we talk a lot at Snowden Lane about what we don't do And that is actually very powerful for advisors. We don't mark up product. We don't have corporate revenue sharing. We don't take payments for shelf space. We don't control advisors' investment process. We don't have proprietary products or proprietary research. We don't have restricted lists because we don't have investment banking. We don't take risk with our balance sheet, no prop trading. We have no business lines outside of wealth management, and we are very streamlined. We have very experienced management, so we don't have to be bureaucratic to make decisions. And we find that's very powerful for advisors. And that's the third pillar of the firm, really, is focusing on financial advisors. And I remember when we started the firm, there's a lot of focus on what was going on in the product origination and distribution food chain, if you will. And there was fee compression, disintermediation, and it was clear to us when we founded the firm that the most valuable component of that food chain was the financial advisor, because they were closest to the client and most trusted by the client, and that they would be the last, we felt they would be the last to be impacted by fee compression. And I think that's proven to be true. I'll just say one other thing about our founding that was really important, and it was very fortuitous that I reconnected with Lyle Lamoth and Greg Franks early on. Lyle had run all of U.S. wealth management for Merrill Lynch, and Greg had run the Western division for Lyle. Both of them had started as financial advisors in their careers, and then worked their way all the way up through the Merrill Lynch hierarchy to very, very senior positions. We got to know one another when we were on the executive committee for Private Client. I had actually met Greg in international, but they're both very, very experienced, and we have very different skill sets, which I think bodes very well for the firm, because we have a lot of experience at different things, and particularly we have a lot of experience around wealth advisory from both the leadership side, the practitioner side, and the regulatory compliance and risk side.
I appreciate the background because it'll put some of the discussion around growth into context. And also, for the record, I remember quite clearly the Elliot Spitzer era. It was actually one of the first cover stories I worked on. And it's amazing how many people I've talked to actually use that as a bit of a pivot or an inflection point, right? It highlighted conflicts, of course, but more than anything, I think it highlighted the potential for conflicts that got people thinking. Then the financial crisis hits, right? Not too long after that. And obviously you had a lot of people thinking about what would it be like to sort of break away, right? From, the brand names on Wall Street, do my own thing and operate more independently. So here we are, 10 years, give or take, after your founding, and you have grown considerably. You have built a great business and a great platform. I'm curious, could you just give our audience a bit of an overview of what your growth strategy has been? Obviously, you've been very active acquirers of talent and advisors. But if you wouldn't mind just maybe giving a high level overview of one, or what your overall strategy is as it relates to growth. And then two, what is an ideal opportunity, whether it's M&A or recruitment of a team, look like for you in Snowden Lane?
Sure. Well, I should have said just our sort of basic metrics. We're $9 billion in client assets, right? We are 12 offices around the country. We have a national footprint. We have international business. Right now, we have 64 financial advisors, all of whom have been recruited from large financial services firms. So we don't play in the RIA M&A game yet. We really believe that the sweet spot for recruiting right now is the advisors that are coming to the independent space from the larger firms. So in terms of our growth strategy, we are looking now. Short term, we want to cross 10 billion soon, and hopefully that happens before the end of the year or close to it. We then want to get to 20 billion a lot quicker than it took us to get to 10. And we think that we can do that. So our goal will be to probably double the number of financial advisors, get to 20 billion. We are looking for attractive additional wealth markets in the United States, of which we think there are many. A couple of places where we're not right now, we're not in the Pacific Northwest, so we're looking there. We'll probably end up with something in Boston before too long. So selective wealth markets where we can add significant revenue. We don't recruit and open offices for sole practitioners. We look to achieve, say, 3 to 5 million in revenue in a given location before we'll open an office.
Okay, good. That's helpful, and I appreciate that. And is there anything, if you were to move away from just the quantitative criteria, so to speak, and you were to look at some of the characteristics of an ideal team that goes to Snowden Lane? I mean, what are some of the things that you look for, whether it's culturally or just stylistically, about the way they run their businesses?
Sure. Well, I think you hit on the first and most important thing. We are very much a teams-based organization, and my partners have an old school phrase that every great team has a finder, a minder, and a grinder. So we're looking for that. To me, that says you're looking for balance and functionality across different skill sets with teams, just as we have at our leadership level. But typically we'd be looking for teams of two or more practitioners, probably assets around 200 million, trailing 12 production of close to 2. Maybe we in terms of clients, most of our teams are dealing with high net worth and ultra high net worth clients, some higher end affluent. We are very much looking for, and I guess first and foremost, people that share values, that have a long-term vision. We do not typically recruit people who have moved around to a lot of different firms, because we're looking for people that really have a long-term interest in working with us, and we want to be around for quite a while. And so, the other thing is we do look for people who are predominantly fee-based and annuitized in their practice.
That's good to know. And I like the finder, minder, and grinder. I will definitely steal that and apply it in some instance. Does that have to be 3 distinct people, or can one person actually be all 3 of those things?
I think it's pretty hard to be all 3 of those things. You can be a bit of it, but it does, I think, characterize the different personality types and the value that they bring to a team. Most of us can relate to that in some way.
No, absolutely. I appreciate that. And I'm curious too, I mean, the movement away from, the wirehouse and the sort of captive world has been in progress for quite some time. And, before obviously even, Snowden Lane was formed. Looking at where we are now, in November of 2021, what's different about the advisors that are going independent? And then part 2 of that question is, what is it that they're looking for from Snowden Lane? What is the problem that they want you to solve, other than just looking for a path to independence?
Right. Well, clearly the folks that are leaving now, it's more established practices. It used to be, not that many years ago, that the people who really couldn't cut it or didn't want to cut it at a wirehouse or a large financial firm, they were the ones that went to independence. Now I think you're seeing, because of the economics, the much larger practices, much more sophisticated practices, people that have been in place for a long time, looking at what's the best opportunity for their next chapter. And so I think that really is the change. It's a lot more established players, I think, looking into the independent space.
Sure. And I can certainly appreciate that, especially as the space has become as large as it has. The markets have increased as much, have appreciated as much as they have, and the industry itself has evolved. You did mention, speaking of the industry's evolution, that you don't play in the RIA M&A space yet. I won't put you on the spot and ask you to share more than you can, but I am curious, what types of opportunities do you think the RIA M&A world presents to you in Snowden Lane at the moment?
Well, I think there's, it's interesting to me when you look at the RIA landscape, and what we're seeing, I think, is concentration, but not necessarily over consolidation. And I think that's largely because the big folks at the top are in acquisition mode, so they're gaining scale. However, there are just as many new RIAs being created as are being merged into larger entities. So you still have a very diffuse market. And so I think there is, there's tremendous opportunity as demonstrated by the pace of M&A. I do think that it's expensive. We're able to, on a relative basis, recruit, very high quality breakaway teams at better pricing, I would say, than is being paid for RIAs. And of course, RIAs, everyone comes with a personality and a character, but typically RIAs that have been out in the marketplace, they have generally considerable staffing. They have their own culture. They have their own, framework for how they've operated, their own legal entities, and probably more to address than practices who want to move. And really, we provide that full service experience and platform in an independent space where you get freedom, flexibility, you get independence, ownership, but you get a full service experience. So the people that come to us are really looking, they know what they're good at. They're good at managing their practice, and they don't want to run a firm.
Yeah, and I appreciate that point of view too. No one has actually brought up, we've had dozens of conversations about the RIA M&A activity levels right now. Obviously, the record levels of activity that we've seen over the last several years now. But that notion that there are almost as many, if not more, RIAs that are being formed in a given year, right, versus compared with those that are being acquired, is an interesting take. And I think your second point, just around some of the optionality out there as a business owner and a business leader, there are more options than ever right now. So it's not just build or buy, right? It could be a combination.
I think that's a really good point, Mark. I think that it really is a question of finding the right home. There are so many different types of places you can go to in the independent space, many of which are very high quality, and it's finding the right place that works for the individual.
Yeah, I appreciate the perspective too. It'll be interesting to see how things evolve over the next couple of years, at an industry level, and also just as some of the opportunities present themselves to you at Snowden Lane. So shifting gears a bit, just away from the recruiting and M&A discussion, the other side of the growth coin is obviously organic growth. And I am curious. We try to offer as many practical sort of best practices or takeaways to our audiences here. I don't know if there's anything in particular over the last year to two that you've observed. And it's such a unique period because the entire industry essentially went virtual overnight back in March of 2020. So the way people have done prospecting, business development, even the referral process changed completely. Is there anything, if you were to maybe start at that time period, March 2020, as it relates to client acquisition, marketing, or business development, is there anything that you would highlight has been particularly effective for helping your advisors grow their businesses organically?
Well, I think the first thing I would note is we were really fortunate. 7, maybe 8 years ago, we went to the cloud. And I literally, the person that took us there had to explain what it was. I had no idea what it was at the time. And it turned out to just be an incredibly prescient decision because at the time COVID hit, we were fully remote capable. Everyone had full setup at home. And literally, we didn't go to the office, but we didn't miss a beat. So I think that that was a major plus for us. In terms of how we've evolved since then, I think we've seen the benefits of that flexibility, and I think that's going to continue. We've just been talking about, January is the new Labor Day for getting back to, however you were before. But I don't think it's going to go back. I was thinking about what do we want to say to our employees? And it's not mandating return to the office. I think it's mandating clarity in terms of the work arrangements of your employees. So what I want to make sure of is that we know what everybody's doing. There will be some people who are 100% in the office. There will be other people that are part office, part home. There will be other people that are, entirely remote. And I think that flexibility has demonstrated its effectiveness and will continue. So that's going to be, pretty interesting. In terms of the broader observation about what's been going on and that fosters growth at our firm, to me, I think the first and foremost thing is a broader observation, sort of predates COVID, but it's the independent environment, I think, fosters growth. And, I'll give a silly example of, structured notes. When advisors were at, one of the firms that they came from, one of the big four, typically they go out to a desk to get notes and they're dealing with their desk. We have access to 14 issuers, some of which include the largest financial organizations, including, say, Goldman and Barclays. You have access to things that you never would have before. So I think that the environment of, what I'll call freedom and fee transparency, true open architecture, product availability, fosters growth. And I think there's a reason that the growth rate in the independent space is exceeding what is, my understanding is it's pretty slim in the wirehouse world, 1% to 2%. Yeah. We're probably coming in around, excluding market, 4 to 5. Love to see more than that, but I think the environment fosters growth. The other thing that's interesting to note is that the average. So when we look to hire people, we look at their growth record, right? That's what we are interested in. So the people that are, I think, have the confidence to leave the wirehouse are eager. They're entrepreneurial, they want to grow, and they're typically younger. And I think they're hungry. And so, the people that we recruit have a stronger tendency to grow. And then, of course, the equity ownership at our firm really promotes collaboration. Advisors are not competing with one another by any means. They share ideas. We have partners calls. We have marketing sessions. And we have Lyle and Greg who have done this their entire careers at scale, and I think it promotes a great degree of rowing in the same direction, collaborating, sharing ideas, and not competing with one another.
Just one question on the January is the new Labor Day note. Is there anything that you think, as we move hopefully into a post-COVID world, any behaviors, any ways that your advisors have been interacting with clients or prospects that you think we indefinitely take with us into the future?
Well, I would simply say that I think that the shift to technology in terms of keeping contact with people is here to stay. Whether it's Zooms or, conferencing or texting or other messaging technology, that has been accelerated by a multiple over COVID. And I think, frankly, clients are probably easier to get now. When you want to have a video interaction with someone, they're used to it. They understand the connectivity. I think social media. So I think there's been a great acceleration of that. Our business is still a referral business, first and foremost. That is the predominant way that we gain clients. And at the levels we work at, I think that will stay. But I think that the technology has really accelerated business development. And we've just been we've been thrilled. I think this year we added $2 billion of client assets in the course of the year and taking in December of last year as well.
Pretty amazing. And not just the raw accomplishment and addition of assets, right? But you consider that a lot of that you had to establish enough trust with people that may not have known you, right? That they're willing to say, I want to confide in you as my advisor, even though I've never actually met you face to face, right? Which is pretty amazing, considering how the business has operated for decades. So congrats to you on the success that you've had. And Rob, thank you very much for taking some time to stop by RIA Edge. I think we covered a lot of ground in a pretty short period of time, but we will have to have you back at some point soon, especially to see how things play out in the RIA M&A world. It's near and dear to my heart after I spent a little bit of time in that part of the market too. So I'm always interested to see how it evolves. But thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks, Mark. It's been great to be here with you today, and really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Rob, for joining us. And thank you to the audience here for joining us on this episode of RIA Edge. Hope you found it informative. Hope you found that there were some practical applications for your own business to think about how you can grow, whether it's through M&A or it's through organic growth. The strategies here, we covered a lot of ground, as I mentioned, but Rob, this is an excellent interview, and we hope to have you back very soon. On behalf of the wealthmanagement.com and the Informa Wealth Management Division, I'm Mark Bruno, and look forward to having you all back at the next episode of RIA Edge. Schwab Advisor Services is proud to support the RIA Edge podcast, and equally proud to support independent financial advisors like you. In a challenging year, how did 68% of firms surveyed in Schwab's RIA benchmarking study meet or exceed their new client goals? By following key success factors such as leveraging new technology, adapting strategies to win new business, and stay connected with their clients, while also attracting and developing the right talent. The Schwab RIA benchmarking study is just one of many ways they provide you with the insights and resources needed to succeed and grow. Get the full picture at advisorservices.schwab.com.